This is Lisa Miller and Associates, Florida Insurance Roundup, your podcast on the people, issues, and regulations shaping Florida's insurance market. Now, here's Lisa Miller.
Welcome, friends. Did you wake up this morning thinking, ugh, another day? Or were you truly excited, looking forward to a new day in this rewarding but sometimes topsy-turvy industry that we call insurance? This is an exciting time to be working in insurance. Whether you're an agent, underwriter, actuary, or executive, we're all trying to help guide our organizations through the sea change taking place. Insurance is a noble profession, I often say. You're helping people protect their lives, families, and property. Despite that, there are shortages of talent in key functions, including agents, estimators, appraisers, umpires, you name it. Our guest on today's Florida Insurance Roundup podcast is part of an admittedly wacky, out-of-the-box clan whose key mission is dead serious: to help recruit people into the insurance industry and advance the careers of those already in it. Nick Lamparelli is an insurance veteran of 20-plus years and is Chief Evangelist for the Insurance Nerds. He's also the host of the Insurance Nerds podcast, Profiles in Risk, which is how we first met. Nick is joining us from his office in New Hampshire. It's great to talk with you again, Nick.
So nice to be with you. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thank you. And before we talk about Insurance Nerds, I love that name, by the way, let's go back to this morning. What is it about the insurance industry that makes you want to wake up in the morning and stay engaged?
Well, I can't admit that I woke up chipper, so let's throw that on the table. What you didn't mention is I do have another startup. I'm co-founder of an MGA, and as a startup, it's very stressful times. So there's a lot going on, a lot to juggle. But with that said, we got an account today. Account that we were working on, we got it, and it's my MGA is focused on flood and flood insurance, and this was an underground parking garage in a former flood zone area. And I can tell you that this one account will fuel my emotion and my desire to keep moving forward, to keep being an evangelist for the industry for weeks, because no one else would write that account. We figured out a way to do it. And it's just completely exciting to see a broker excited, to have the customer feel at ease, and that they'll be protected should something happen. That's what keeps me motivated.
I love that. And there's nothing like what I like to call the win, but it's more than just the win. It's the fact that you're helping this particular client. Flood insurance is complicated and technically wacky, if you will. So congratulations to you. You've got so many hats that you're wearing. I love the fact that you do direct selling and talk to customers every day and tell them about what you can and what they need to think about. I consider you the Chief Underwriting Officer. I think you call yourself that for the Rethought Insurance Corporation. I know that's a firm you co-founded, and with your great background as a catastrophe modeler and a consultant for big firms like QBE and Marsh and AIR Worldwide, you started the groundwork as an insurance agent. So why did you see the need to pull together what I'll call like-minded insurance professionals and create this brand called Insurance Nerds?
Well, I'll start with the story how I met Tony and Carly, who were my co-founders. So Tony and Carly were the ones that originally created Insurance Nerds. So they got into the industry. They had a very positive experience with it. They had a very positive experience at Nationwide, where they met, who had a very unusual training program. And when they both left Nationwide, they felt like there was something missing, and they felt like Insurance Nerds as a online media site might be a way to kind of capture that with blog articles and educational material on Insurance Nerds. And that's how I ended up meeting both of them. I read an article that they wrote. I had been at that time trying to begin my writing process. I wanted to, scratch that itch for writing about what I knew about insurance. And I had been doing that on various blog sites, but there was something unusual about what they were doing. I thought it was very unpretentious, very in an informal way, but yet an engaging way. And so I reached out to them. I asked if I could write a couple articles. We did that, got some good responses. I kept in touch with them for a couple years, and then they wrote another article that really piqued my interest. I actually had the opposite opinion of whatever it was that Tony wrote at the time. I wrote another article for them and then said, you guys are really onto something here. I could see that their audience was growing, and I asked them, where is it that you're trying to go with this? What is it that you're trying to do? And it was exactly the way you described it. It was, they wanted to engage with younger folks that were, considering different career paths, and let them know that insurance was actually cool. Like it's not that stodgy stereotype of, a bunch of older white males sitting around a mahogany table. There's actually a lot of cool stuff there. So we figured out a way to get me involved as a partner there. Part of it would be to do podcasting, to do more articles. As you had mentioned, the model is really transitioning towards how do we engage? How do we reach out to college graduates, to college students, to folks that have already graduated and might be starting their career and don't know what's available out there? How do we engage with them? But it's also transitioning and evolving towards, well, wait a second. If we're going to be recommending a career in insurance, we also need to make sure that the other side is set for that. There is a talent gap. There is a need to get more folks into insurance. And one of the bigger problems that we see right now is that the companies that exist in the insurance ecosystem, agents, brokers, TPAs, carriers, reinsurance, the whole thing, they're not prepared. They still have a cultural mindset that goes back to like the 70s. And so these millennials, we can't just recommend for them to go into insurance without also helping the carriers change their culture so that these younger professionals can come in and engage and really have that transformative moment where they recognize this is the career for me. And I think a lot of carriers don't realize that they're competing against the Googles and the Amazons and tech companies. Millennials and the Gen Zers have a lot of choices. So our model is really built to try to work to help both sides, to really engage the younger professionals that are coming in, show them that there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening in insurance. There's a home for you, but then also engage with the ecosystem as well and say you need to adapt your business culture, your business model to fit this talent to come in, or else there's going to be a clash. I think there's value in what it is that we're trying to do, and we're slowly building that model so that we can execute on it. But I think without a doubt, from the blogs to the podcasts, we are engaging. Our site gets upwards of 20,000 unique visitors a month that come to read the blogs, to listen to the podcasts. So we have hit a nerve in the industry. Now we feel like as though we need to execute it even further.
I love the fact that you recognize what I'll call lack of engagement. I mean, I talk to many millennials, and I hate that term, youth and talent. It's hard to get them to see the value of what the insurance industry can bring and how they can be engaged in it and how rewarding it is. And so you're doing really incredible work out there to keep hope alive, if you will, when it comes to engaging those to see the value and the interest, all the different facets of the insurance industry. So what's preventing us from being successful at getting more people engaged in the insurance industry? What's the biggest challenge to your organization and those of us that follow what you're trying to do? What is that?
No, I think it's something even more fundamental. And I didn't recognize this, Lisa, until I interviewed an underwriter from CNA. Fairly new in his career. His name's Cooper Cohen. And his interview, and this was an interview that happened by accident. Cooper emailed me saying, I know this guy, he's an insurtech, he'd be a great person to interview. So he connected me, and I said, well, what about you? How's your career going? We ended up scheduling an interview. It's been the #1 podcast we've ever had on the show. And he really hit a nerve and made something so obvious I didn't realize it until he brought it up, which was, insurance is really complicated. And a young person growing up never really gets to experience the insurance process, either the sales process, the claims process. They know very little about insurance all the way until they're responsible for a car, or they're looking to get renter's insurance because someone is forcing them to do it, or to buy a house, or their parents have a talk with them. They simply don't know anything about insurance except for what they see on TV, or what they hear.
It's just amazing that, in fact, we even try in the colleges and universities, you'll see some risk management curriculum. I try to make insurance fun. I know you do too. And once you see somebody, I'm almost 60. And so when you see someone in their 20s and 30s get engaged in the insurance industry, it's all consuming and they never want to get out of it. So I think what you're doing is, as they say, leading the horse to water and making them drink and give them just a taste of what can be learned and the rewarding career in the insurance industry. What kinds of professionals are engaged with you and your team? I mean, who do you like to surround yourself with, and what kinds of talent do they need to have to bring to the table?
We do have a small voluntary team that is going to expand once we get our business model down and we can build out our own internal culture. We want to eat our own cooking, so to speak. The folks that are volunteering for us, they're like-minded, enthusiastic. To me, that's the most important thing. I've been in insurance for 20 years. There's not too much, Lisa, out there where you can't teach someone, a concept, even technical stuff. I just feel like you can teach those things. You can't teach enthusiasm. If you're on a basketball court, you can't teach height. There's just certain things you can't teach. And it's just very helpful and very rewarding, inspiring, motivating when you're working with a team that's excited to do these things and finds that there are aspects of the business itself that are very interesting. And it's just, even as I'm saying it, I feel like, maybe I should cringe. But in reality, insurance is science. It's economics. It's finance. It's business. It's marketing. It's writing. You have to, someone has to write a policy. It's legal. There's a home for almost anybody. Our team, when we're working together, we're all in insurance in one way or another. But I think the common piece is that we're all incredibly enthusiastic. Like we may not find the entire every aspect of the industry exciting. I don't, but the parts that I do find exciting, I find extremely exciting. Enough so that I will read books on it. I will take classes on it. And the team that we have, we're all the same. I think that's what we share, is that level of enthusiasm for what it is that we do. Because if you have the enthusiasm, you can tolerate mistakes, you can tolerate errors, but you can't teach enthusiasm. They'll if someone knows what to do, but they're not motivated to do it, then what's the point, right?
Absolutely. And we try so hard to make insurance simple, as particularly on this podcast. We bring topics just like you do to the table to show that it shouldn't be scary and should not be intimidating. I liken insurance to wine. People walk in a wine store and they freeze and intimidated. And until somebody walks over and starts explaining to them the various types of wine, you'll see them relax. So it's, if I can do that analogy, I get smiles a lot because there's a lot of wine drinkers that listen to this podcast. But I do enjoy podcasting, and I think you're just on the right track. You've got wonderful folks around you. They've got tenacity and they have attention to detail and all the great skill sets that they should have in the industry, as well as working with you. How did you get started in the podcast business? What motivated you to start this Profiles in Risk?
So before I got with Insurance Nerds, I had always wanted to do something like this. Mm-hmm. I just was too much of a coward to do it myself, and I had no self-motivation to get that far out of my comfort zone. First of all, it's, as you know, it's technically challenging. You don't just our podcast that we're doing now and the one I did this morning, they don't always go smoothly. You don't just call someone up and start recording. You have to plan a date. You have to set an agenda. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. It was far enough out of my comfort zone that I wanted to do it, was just too scared to do it. It was Tony and Carly that gave me the encouragement and motivation. They were there. I knew that I would be just talking to them on the first few episodes before we would start interviewing people. So that made it a lot easier to do. And, I think it just boils down to, I have an interest in speaking to folks. I think a lot of other people would also have the same interest. So if I'm talking to a certain group of people, I thought maybe that others would also want to listen in and share that experience with me. And so once I joined Insurance Nerds with Tony and Carly, and they gave me the encouragement, we just tried to figure out how to do it. And for anyone that's listening, that's has ever thought about doing a podcast, you just have to step out of your comfort zone. The first few were horrible. The audio quality was terrible. We just trying to figure out how to set up the technical details, the editing of the audio files, finding a place to host it. So, I think it's really just a comfort zone thing, Lisa. I wanted to do it for a long time. I just didn't do it. Just like today, I want to do video. We're trying to figure out how to do it. It's a bit out of my comfort zone. So, of course, I have great partners with Tony and Carly who are encouraging me to do it and how to do it and how we might do it without scaring the heck out of me.
Love it. And I appreciate you. It's a labor of love. We do them as often as we can because it really is the new way to listen and learn. So many of us spend time in cars, on airplanes, and it just helps a lot. So I'm just, I call you the Chief Evangelist for the Insurance Nerds. And I just want to compliment you as being an insurance leader extraordinaire. And thank you for sharing such positive stories and terrific insight here on the Florida Insurance Roundup.
It's so appreciative to just talk to you. And likewise, I'd be happy to come on anytime.
Thank you. And so for our listeners, the Insurance Nerds website is IN as in Nancy, S as in Sam, insnerds.com. It has a ton of cool stuff, like a section devoted to testimonials for insurance industry professionals or, why they love insurance. Plus, it's just fun. Great articles, including one that refers to underwriters as the wizards of the insurance industry. Isn't that the truth? We at Lisa Miller & Associates join in urging you to join the risk revolution, as they say at Insurance Nerds, and check it out. And if you're in charge of recruiting talent for your company, the Insurance Nerds website provides a lot of terrific and fun insight to help you in your efforts. Be sure to check out Nick's podcast, Profiles in Risk, available via the insnerds.com website and on iTunes and other platforms. And we'll have a link and more information, as always, on our podcast show notes page. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject of insurance careers and how we encourage and entice others to join us in this great profession. You can call us and leave your comment or question for our later reply on air right here on the Florida Insurance Roundup. The number to call is 850-388-8002. That's 850-388-8002. Or, of course, I'd love to hear from you by email, lisamiller@lisamillerassociates.com. So with that, that's the Florida Insurance Roundup. Thank you for being a part of it. Remember, at Lisa Miller & Associates, we have a passion for policy and client success. I'm Lisa Miller. Until next time, be safe.
This has been Lisa Miller & Associates Florida Insurance Roundup, your podcast on the people, issues, and regulations shaping Florida's insurance market. For more information on today's program, please visit us on the web at www.lisamillerassociates.com.